They thought your story ended the day they walked away. Maybe they even believed that letting you go was the right move. For them, for you, for the situation. They may have convinced themselves that your absence wouldn't create a ripple, that their life would simply continue, maybe even get better, without you in it. But now, they're seeing it differently. The silence you left behind echoes louder than they expected. The space you once filled, with light, with strength, with energy, has become a hollow void. They regret letting you go, and the truth is, they're beginning to realize that they didn't just lose a person. They lost a blessing, a force, a future they didn't understand at the time. Before we dive deeper into what that regret truly means, I want to ask you to stay with me until the very end of this message. There's something powerful here, something for you to receive and carry forward. In the comments below, share your warmest wishes and write the number 77, a symbol of dreams taking flight, of new beginnings being activated, of wishes finally aligning with divine timing. This chapter is about more than just someone regretting a decision. It's about the spark of rebirth in you, the surge of momentum that tells the universe, I'm still rising and my story is far from over. When people regret losing you, it's not always because they miss the surface-level version of who you were. Often what they miss is the security they felt around you, the authenticity you brought, the truth you spoke, and the way your presence pushed them to be better, even when they didn't say it out loud. Sometimes it's only in your absence that they begin to comprehend the weight of your worth. And while they might try to bury those feelings, distract themselves, or replace what they lost, nothing ever feels quite right. Because the truth is, when someone is divinely placed in your life and you choose to let them go prematurely, the soul remembers, the soul feels that void. You were never just someone in their life. You were the one who saw what they hid from others, the one who stood by them when it wasn't easy, the one who didn't just love them for their potential. You believed in it, even when they didn't. And for some, that kind of presence becomes unbearable once it's lost. They try to convince themselves they made the right decision. They might even act unbothered, but the regret doesn't fade. It grows, quietly, steadily. Because it isn't about ego anymore. It's about the realization that they had someone rare and let them slip away. Yet this story isn't about them. It's about you. About the strength it took to keep going. About the nights you cried but still woke up the next day with a fierce heart. About the dreams that didn't die just because someone else didn't see them. It's about the fact that God's not done with you yet. The doors that closed weren't rejections. They were redirections. You are not defined by who left or who failed to see your light. You are defined by what you do with the pain, how you rise from the ashes, and how you choose to believe in the promise still hovering over your life. You're walking into a season where your name will be spoken in rooms you've never entered. Opportunities will find you not because you chased them, but because you prepared in silence. Growth doesn't always happen in public. Sometimes, the greatest transformation takes place in the shadows, in the lonely places, in the quiet spaces where you meet yourself again. You're not who you used to be, and that's a good thing. You're becoming someone stronger, wiser, more aligned with your purpose. And while they're regretting your absence, you're rediscovering your presence. They thought they broke you. Maybe they even hoped you'd stay stuck in the pain, held hostage by memories. But what they didn't realize is that rejection was the catalyst that pushed you toward reinvention. You no longer crave validation from those who couldn't value you. Your worth isn't up for debate anymore. You've stopped shrinking to fit into places that were never designed to hold you. And that, more than anything, is what makes their regret even deeper. Because you didn't crumble, you evolved. Some people regret letting you go, not because they love you, but because they lost access to your energy. They miss the way you gave without expectation, the way you poured into them even when your own cup was empty. And now, they're learning the hard way. Not everyone gives like you, not everyone shows up like you, not everyone stays when things get hard. And as they search for replacements, for echoes of you in other people, they're hit with the truth. You were never ordinary. You were extraordinary. And extraordinary doesn't come around twice. But don't let their regret pull you back into their orbit. You don't need to return to the places where you had to beg to be seen. Growth means knowing that some doors are better left closed. It means accepting that some chapters must end so that new ones can begin, with clarity, with peace, with alignment. Let their regret be a lesson, not a lure. You are not who you were when they let you go. You are becoming someone even they wouldn't recognize now. Your silence has been louder than words. Your healing has been your greatest revenge. Not because you're trying to prove anything to anyone, but because you're finally choosing you. The path ahead may still be unknown, but one thing is certain: you're not walking it alone. There is divine orchestration behind every delay, every detour, every disappointment. And just because someone else couldn't see your future doesn't mean it disappeared. It means it was never meant for their eyes to see. They may regret letting you go, but you don't have to regret being the person who loved deeply, gave sincerely, and stayed true. Their inability to value you says nothing about your value. It says everything about their capacity to receive love. And while they sort through that, your only job is to keep rising, keep healing, keep moving toward the life that's still calling your name. Because this isn't the end. It's the beginning of the most powerful chapter yet. There's something deeply powerful about the moment you stop waiting for closure. When you finally understand that not every story needs an ending that makes sense, not every goodbye needs to be explained, and not every loss needs to be revisited. The pain you once carried like armor starts to fall away. You stop analyzing their choices, their silence, their sudden distance. You stop wondering what you could have done differently. And in that release, you reclaim a part of yourself that was never meant to be tied to their indecision. Their regret might be loud, but your peace is louder. Because you've grown beyond the version of yourself that once needed them. You no longer chase healing through other people. You found it within. And while they battle with the consequences of their actions, you're learning how to embrace a life that reflects who you are now, not who you had to be to survive their absence. Your growth didn't come from comfort. It came from walking through pain without letting it harden you. It came from rebuilding your self-worth, brick by brick, when they no longer saw your value. The truth is, some people don't recognize beauty until it's gone. They take warmth for granted until the cold sets in. They walk away from something real while chasing illusions. And later, when the noise settles and the distractions fade, regret shows up, clear and merciless. That's when it hits them. They let go of someone irreplaceable. They let go of someone who would have walked through fire for them. And now, watching you rise without them, they feel the weight of that choice. But don't mistake their regret for a sign that you should return. Regret is not repentance. Feeling sorry is not the same as being changed. Sometimes, people only regret losing you because they see how well you're doing without them. They didn't appreciate your loyalty when they had it, but now they long for it because they realize what they lost. The sad part is, they never saw the depth of your heart. Not truly. They only saw the parts that benefited them. And now, your growth is a mirror they can't ignore. You were never meant to be someone's second option. You weren't created to be loved halfway, held conditionally, or kept on standby while they explored other paths. You were meant to be chosen, boldly, fully, without hesitation. And if they couldn't see that then, it's not your responsibility to teach them now. Let them sit with their regret. Let them learn the lessons life is offering. You're not the same person who waited for a call, a text, an apology. You've moved on from hoping they'd come back and made peace with the fact that not all connections are meant to last forever. Your story now is about rising into your own power, about trusting that what's meant for you will recognize you, honor you, and never let you go. God's not done writing your story just because someone couldn't read the page they were on. In fact, your best chapters often begin after you've been counted out. The spotlight they once withheld from you is now shining brighter than ever, and it's not because they finally see you, it's because you finally see yourself. The most dangerous version of you is the one who knows their worth, the one who no longer needs validation to feel whole, the one who can walk away from anything that compromises their peace. That's the version of you they never expected, the one who isn't bitter, just better, the one who isn't stuck in the past, but focused on building a future rooted in authenticity and purpose. You didn't just bounce back, you transformed. And that transformation is what they'll never be able to undo. So many people regret letting go of someone solid when they were chasing temporary comfort. They realize too late that surface-level connections don't replace depth, that attention doesn't equal affection, that presence isn't the same as loyalty. And while they try to fill the void, you've been filling your soul with truth, healing, love that doesn't need to be begged for. You've created a life that doesn't need them to make sense. You stopped waiting for them to return and started building something they were never capable of understanding. You planted seeds in silence, and now the harvest is coming. The success they thought you'd never reach without them is blossoming right in front of their eyes. And not out of revenge, but because that's what happens when you trust the process. When you keep going, even when no one's watching. Your journey didn't need their approval. It just needed your commitment. Now they watch from a distance, unsure of how to approach. They replay memories like a highlight reel, wondering where they went wrong. And deep down they know it was when they underestimated you, when they thought you'd always be available, when they believed you needed them more than they needed you. Their regret isn't just about losing you. It's about realizing they never really knew you in the first place. But you don't owe them access anymore. You don't owe them an explanation, a response, or an invitation back into your life. Growth means drawing boundaries. It means protecting your peace, even when your heart still cares. It means knowing that forgiveness is for your freedom, not a pass for them to return. Let your silence be your answer. Let your progress be your proof. And let your journey speak for itself. They regret letting you go, but you've gained far more in the process. You've gained self-respect. You've gained clarity. You've gained the kind of peace that comes from knowing you survived something meant to break you, and you came out stronger, more grounded, more in tune with your calling. This isn't about proving anyone wrong. It's about living in alignment with who you truly are and letting that truth guide your next steps. Sometimes the greatest lesson comes wrapped in rejection. When they let you go, you felt like something shattered inside you. The confusion, the disbelief, the hurt, it all rushed in like a storm. You questioned your worth. You asked why. You tried to piece together the broken edges, thinking if you just understood their reason, the pain would make sense. But now, with time and distance, you see it more clearly. That rejection wasn't the end. It was the beginning. A divine push toward something greater. They let you go thinking they were doing what was best, for them, maybe even for you, but they didn't realize what you were carrying. They couldn't see the depth of the treasure within you. People often misjudge the quiet strength, the gentle love, the unwavering loyalty. They see it as softness, not realizing it takes immense courage to stay kind in a world that teaches us to be cold. You were a gift, and they treated you like a convenience. Now, they feel the absence of that light. They miss the energy you brought into every room, the way your words brought calm to chaos, the way your heart held space for them even when they didn't deserve it. And now, while they scroll through pieces of your life from afar, through stories, glimpses, whispers, they can feel it. You're not who you were when they left. You've grown in ways they never expected. You've risen in ways they can't comprehend. And with each step forward, with each breath of freedom, they're haunted by the realization that they released someone who would have stood beside them through every storm. But here's what matters more. You didn't just survive what they did to you. You transcended it. You transformed pain into power. You turned loss into clarity. The emptiness they left behind became a sacred space for your healing. You filled that space with truth, with purpose, with new beginnings. And now you're attracting people, experiences, and opportunities that match your new vibration. Because when you heal, the world responds. It's not that you're heartless now. It's that you finally stopped handing your heart to those who didn't know how to hold it. You learned boundaries. You learned how to say no without guilt. You learned that walking away from chaos doesn't make you weak. It proves you're wise. You're not bitter. You're awake. You've stopped begging for crumbs from tables you were meant to walk away from. And in doing so, you discovered your own table, one built on love, truth, and inner peace. And while they may try to circle back, with apologies, with memories, with empty words dressed as redemption, you'll recognize the pattern. You'll see the cycle. Because now you have the clarity to discern between regret and genuine change. You understand that true love doesn't abandon, it doesn't run, and it definitely doesn't come back only when it's convenient. You've stopped giving chances to people who only show up when they realize they lost their grip. They regret letting you go, and maybe they should, but don't let that regret confuse your progress. You're not here to save people from the consequences of their own choices. You're not here to teach them the value of loyalty by continuing to offer it after they've dismissed it. Your growth is not their safety net. You don't need to return to the scene of the hurt to prove your heart is still good. You prove that by surviving it and staying soft. Every moment you spend rebuilding yourself has added to your strength. Every tear that fell when no one was watching watered the seeds of your next season. Every time you chose to believe in better, even when better felt like a distant dream, you laid the foundation for the life you're living now. And that life, it doesn't require their approval or involvement. It's sacred. It's yours. You are not defined by who walked away. You are defined by how you stood back up. You didn't let betrayal make you bitter. You didn't let silence turn you small. You kept showing up for yourself. You kept believing that something greater was coming, even when your heart was heavy. And now, that greater is arriving. Slowly, then all at once. Regret is heavy. It lives in the hearts of those who didn't see clearly until it was too late. But you carry something different now. Not heaviness, but lightness. Not sorrow, but sovereignty. You don't just exist, you radiate. And while they fumble through their memories, trying to grasp what they lost, you're too busy creating a life that was never meant to include them in this chapter. What they didn't realize is that you weren't waiting for them. You were rising. Quietly, steadily, beyond their reach. And the version of you they regret losing, that version is long gone. In its place is someone braver, wiser, softer in all the right places, and firmer where it counts. You didn't become colder, you became clearer. And that clarity is your protection now. They may never say it out loud, but they know. They feel it. In the stillness of the night, in the moments of loneliness, they replay the conversations, the laughter, the presence that once filled their world. And all they can do is wonder how they let someone like you go. But that's not your burden to carry, that's theirs to hold. Because you are no longer who you were when they left. You are no longer waiting, hoping, or shrinking. You are living, fully and unapologetically. And that, more than anything, is what makes their regret echo louder than ever. They thought your silence meant you were weak, that your decision to walk away quietly meant you didn't care. But silence is not surrender. In fact, your silence was your strength. It was the shield you used to protect your peace while the storm raged behind you. You chose not to fight for someone who wasn't fighting for you. You chose not to chase what was already walking away. And in that stillness, you reclaimed your dignity. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is not react. While they were expecting you to fall apart, to reach out, to ask for answers or beg for clarity, you did the unexpected. You let go. You didn't force closure. You didn't need a dramatic exit. You just turned the page and let life speak for you. And now, That silence is louder than any words you could have said. It haunts them, because it means you finally understood your worth, and you weren't going to waste it, proving it to someone who never saw it clearly. Regret doesn't always show up as an apology. Sometimes it shows up as random texts, unexplained calls, likes on old photos, or subtle ways of trying to re-enter your life without truly acknowledging what was broken. But you're not the same person who used to hope for their return. You're not waiting for breadcrumbs anymore. You're building a life that doesn't depend on people who couldn't stay the first time. And even if they come back with the right words, remember, words mean nothing without changed behavior. Don't let your healing be undone by nostalgia. Don't trade your growth for a glimpse of who they pretend to be now. The person they regret letting go is a version of you they no longer have access to. And that's okay. Not everyone is meant to go where you're going. Not everyone is ready for the healed version of you, the one who no longer makes excuses for people's inability to love you properly. They regret letting you go because they thought you'd always be there. They assumed your love was unconditional, without realizing that love can be deep and still have boundaries. That you can forgive someone without ever inviting them back into your sacred space. They thought they could come and go as they pleased, that they could push and pull you like a tide. But tides change. And so did you. Now you carry yourself differently. You speak with more intention. You protect your heart without apologizing for it. You no longer ignore red flags, hoping they'll turn green. You trust your instincts, your spirit, your path. And while they may be caught in a loop of what could have been, you're too busy walking toward what will be. That's the difference. They're looking backward. You're moving forward. There's something beautifully painful about regret. It teaches people that some mistakes are irreversible, that some losses can't be fixed with time, that not everyone you let go will wait for you to figure it out. Some people, like you, choose to rise instead, choose to evolve, to heal, to release the past without resentment. That's what stings the most. You didn't just move on, you elevated. And here's the truth. They didn't let go of someone ordinary. They let go of someone who would have held it all together, someone who brought wisdom and softness, someone who believed in second chances and late-night conversations, someone who showed up without being asked. And the world doesn't offer that kind of soul often. That's why they regret it. That's why they're still looking for pieces of you in people who were never built like you. But you stopped looking for replacements a long time ago. You stopped seeking answers in people who could only give you confusion. You started pouring that energy back into yourself, and in return, you found peace. Not the kind that's loud and boastful, but the kind that's quiet, solid, and unshakable. The kind that doesn't beg for attention. The kind that radiates from within. The kind that says, I'm whole, even after what broke me. This is the part of your story where you stop romanticizing the past, where you stop questioning your decision to let go, where you stop doubting the power of your own transformation, because the version of you they regret losing is the very version that was born out of that loss. Without the pain, without the goodbye, without the breaking, you wouldn't have become who you are now. And who you are now deserves to be celebrated. They may try to find their way back. They may come with better language, softer words, and more understanding. But be careful not to confuse growth with manipulation. Some people only change enough to get another chance. But you don't need to take them back to honor your love. You don't need to re-enter a place that already taught you a lesson. Sometimes love is shown most powerfully in the ability to let someone go and never look back. The version of you they regret losing is no longer standing still. That version is walking forward with clarity. That version is discovering new doors, new opportunities, new love. The kind that doesn't make you question your worth. The kind that stays without needing to be chased. That version is living in alignment with divine timing. And most importantly, that version is no longer focused on who left, but on what's ahead. So don't feel guilty for growing beyond what hurt you. Don't feel guilty for closing the door and never opening it again. Don't feel guilty for becoming someone they never imagined you'd be, because you became exactly who you were always meant to be. And that journey, that power, that transformation is your reward. Let them regret, let them wonder, let them miss you. You're too far ahead to go back now. You've probably come to a point where you no longer feel the need to explain what happened. That's growth. You've learned that the ones who truly care will ask. The ones who truly see you will understand without being told. And those who walked away without a second thought, they were never meant to be part of your long-term story. Their chapter in your life was never the whole book. It was a turning point, a lesson, a moment. But it was not the ending. And now, as they sit in the silence they created, you are living proof that healing speaks louder than any apology ever could. There was a time when their absence felt like a wound. Every memory, every broken promise, every time they overlooked your value, it all played on repeat in your mind. But now, their absence feels like clarity, peace, freedom. You're no longer carrying the weight of unspoken words or unanswered questions. You're not wondering what they're thinking or hoping they see your progress. You've learned to separate your worth from their choices. That alone is victory. And while they are still haunted by the version of you that gave endlessly, loved deeply, and forgave quickly, you've rewritten the narrative. You've become someone who protects their heart, who sees red flags for what they are, who no longer trades potential for consistency. You know now that love without effort isn't love. It's convenience, and you refuse to be anyone's convenience ever again. It's amazing how quiet life becomes when you stop entertaining confusion, when you remove the voices that once caused you to doubt yourself, when you block out the noise that kept you small. In that quiet you found your power. You found a voice that had been buried under people's expectations, their projections, their limitations. You started listening to your own rhythm, and it led you home, to yourself. They regret letting you go because they're finally realizing you were the stability they took for granted. You were the safe space, the loyal soul, the rare connection. And now, when they try to find that again, they're met with disappointment. Because people like you don't come around often. And they didn't just lose someone who loved them, they lost someone who understood them, who stood by them, who genuinely wanted the best for them. That kind of loss lingers, but you're not here to live in the shadows of someone else's regret. You're here to rise, to shine, to show the world that what was meant to break you only made you brighter. You've stopped living for validation. You've stopped shrinking yourself to be digestible. You're no longer trying to fit into places that felt too tight for your spirit. You've expanded, grown, blossomed, and the beauty of that is undeniable. People always think they have time to come back, time to explain, time to fix what they broke. But the truth is, you've moved on, and not out of spite, but out of self-respect. You outgrew the need for closure. You no longer look for peace in places that once caused you pain. You've started writing your story with your own hands, and you're no longer giving anyone else the pen. The ones who regret letting you go will never fully be able to describe what they lost, because they never truly saw all that you were. They saw what was convenient, what was useful, what made them feel good in the moment. But they didn't see your soul, they didn't understand the weight of your presence. And now, that absence feels like a silence they can't escape. Every reminder of you, the smile, the laughter, the quiet wisdom, is a reminder of what they chose to leave behind. But you're not stuck in that memory anymore. You've gone from mourning the past to celebrating the present. You've shifted from trying to understand why things ended to understanding why they had to. You're no longer wishing for reconciliation, you're embracing your resurrection. And that shift, that awakening, is the most beautiful thing they'll never be able to touch. You've stepped into a season where your energy is protected, your heart is guarded by wisdom, and your time is only invested where it is valued. This new version of you is not available to people who treated you like an option. You are no longer accessible to the ones who had access and wasted it. That's the kind of boundary that doesn't need to be spoken. It's felt. And they feel it now, stronger than ever. They regret letting you go, but more than that, they regret not appreciating you when they had you. Because now, Even if they came back, they would be standing in front of someone they no longer know. Someone who has learned to love themselves enough not to settle. Someone who walks with purpose, who glows with confidence, who doesn't accept less than they deserve. And that is what makes you powerful. You've reached the point where peace is more important than attention, where growth is more important than validation, where solitude is more fulfilling than fake companionship. You no longer need people to stay just to prove you're lovable. You know you are. You always were. It just took walking away from the wrong ones to finally see it. Their regret doesn't define your value. Their absence doesn't diminish your light. In fact, everything they thought you'd never be without them, you already are. Whole, grounded, aligned, not because they left, but because you finally realized who you were all along. And now, that realization is carrying you into a future brighter than anything you left behind. You're standing at a threshold now, not between past and future, but between who you were and who you are becoming. And it's a sacred place to be. Because while they regret letting you go, you're not looking back. You've already crossed into the life that was waiting for you all along. The life that didn't require begging, proving, or chasing. The life that recognizes you, welcomes you, and meets you where you are, healed, whole, and aware. Every step you've taken has led you closer to the version of yourself that doesn't compromise anymore. You've stopped making yourself small just to make others comfortable. You've stopped giving your loyalty to those who couldn't hold it with care. You've outgrown those dynamics where your love was a burden, your honesty was too much, your consistency was overlooked. What used to feel like rejection, you now see as divine protection. And what once broke you down has now become the foundation you're building on. Let them carry their regret. That is their journey. Yours is different now. Yours is rooted in deeper peace, stronger boundaries, and clearer vision. You're no longer tied to the version of yourself that needed to be chosen. You've chosen yourself. And that decision has changed everything. You no longer seek the past for comfort. You no longer seek the familiar for safety. You've learned to live in the unknown, and in doing so, you've tapped into a strength you never knew you had. What's coming for you is greater than what you lost. Not just because it's new, but because you are new. You've evolved. You've expanded. And now you're aligned with what's real, not what's fleeting, not what's temporary, not what breaks you, just to keep you close. You're aligned with what lifts you, what inspires you, what speaks your language on a soul level. You are attracting people who see you without needing you to explain yourself. Situations that match your worth without you having to prove it. Opportunities that call to your spirit, not your survival. God's not done with you, not even close. The pain, the rejection, the detours, none of it was wasted. It all served to prepare you, to shape you, to fortify you. The very things that once made you feel unworthy are now the exact reasons you're unshakable. Every goodbye created space for the right people to walk in. Every disappointment became a portal to deeper purpose. Every silence became a reminder that your voice matters and that you no longer need it to be heard by everyone to be powerful. They may regret letting you go, but you don't regret choosing yourself. That decision, above all, is what changed the direction of your life. You stopped giving your energy to temporary places. You stopped doubting your inner knowing. You stopped betraying your own intuition just to hold on to people who were already slipping away. And in that decision, you began to rise, not just emotionally, but spiritually. You began to walk in truth, and truth always leads to freedom. Now, when you look in the mirror, you don't just see someone who survived, you see someone who overcame, someone who no longer needs to be defined by who walked away. Someone who knows that their value isn't in being needed, but in being whole. You see someone who finally stopped waiting for an apology and started living in alignment. And that version of you is unstoppable. Let them watch from a distance. Let them wonder what it would be like if they had stayed. Let them reflect. But don't let their reflection become your direction. You've moved forward for a reason. There's no need to entertain what you've already outgrown. You don't have to reopen the door to prove you've healed. You're already living proof that healing is possible, that transformation is real, that freedom is attainable when you stop holding on to what hurt you. You are proof that endings can become beginnings, that loss can become fuel, that absence can birth abundance. You are walking evidence that the pain didn't win, that rejection didn't ruin you. That love, real love, lasting love, begins with how you show up for yourself when no one else does. You are the story of what happens when someone chooses to rise anyway. And that story isn't over. In fact, it's just beginning, because God is still writing. And this time, it's not a story of brokenness. It's a story of breakthrough. Not a story of regret, but of revelation. Not a story about them, but about you. The one who didn't fold. The one who didn't fade. The one who kept believing that something greater was coming, and is now stepping into that promise with boldness and grace. They regret letting you go, but you're not stuck in that moment anymore. You're living, breathing, becoming. And with every step, every breath, every choice rooted in truth, you're proving what they never could see. NTHAT, God's not done with you yet.